We all have our own mountains to conquer and our own summits to climb. When it comes to taking on life's challenges and the real pains in one's life, or even the really exciting parts, it's important that there is someone there either to encourage you or to counsel you through whatever it is that you might be going through. We have Deshun Deysel in the studio with us. More than 20 years of experience in teaching and training, motivating and helping people get over some of the difficulties, but also help them to get over the stumbling blocks, I believe, to get to the good things that they need to experience. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Jerry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I found out some exciting things about you, which you think happened a long time ago, but I think probably brought you to where you are today. You were one of the first in our nation to summit Everest, and in fact able to plant the brand new South African flag. Tell us more about that.
Well, in 1995, there was an initiative to find a group of climbers to go up Mount Everest, because until then, no one's ever done it before. In fact, no one set foot on the slopes of Everest until that point from South Africa. And they had the group of men, male climbers, ready, but there was no female to climb with them. And so there was a nationwide search, for women to accompany these guys to go climb the mountain. And that search led me to then apply to be on the team. And as they say, the rest is history, but the history of it actually is that I was part of that very first team of South Africans to get to Mount Everest and plant the flag on the top of the mountain.
When they call and they say you're the one selected, I mean, what?
I actually thought it was a joke because it's just one of those far-fetched things. You throw your thing out there, and I didn't really expect anything to come back. I think what happened was I just thought, you know what, I'm young, I've got time. I was 25 at the time and I was footloose and fancy free. So yes. I just thought, I've always wanted to climb Mount Everest. It's a long story from my childhood. Yes. But when the opportunity was there, I couldn't not do something about it. I thought, if I get no news from them, it'll be fine. At least I tried. And if I get the news that says no, that would also be okay. And so when the person finally called, the leader of the expedition, Ian Woodall, I thought someone was impersonating a so-called leader, because I told a couple of people that I'd done this and they thought I was crazy, because you have to be a little bit mad to go climb. Sure. So I really thought that someone was pulling a fast one on me.
But you were a hiker at the time. I mean, fitness and positive thinking and endurance was a part of your life at the time.
Very much so. I'm a city girl, but I love the outdoors. I really love I love the solitude of being out there and, just walking for hours and hours and just thinking and reflecting and meditating and spending time with God. So that's really something that draws me to the big mountains of the world, because you spend hours and hours on your own sometimes. And so my background in that, and I also used to love camping. I can pitch a tent with my eyes closed.
Oh, there you go. And fix a braai really quickly.
Very quickly. I mean, if you need someone to make a braai fire, I'm your girl. So I really, really love that part of life, and it was a very natural next step for me to try and get into mountaineering.
Something like that, mountaineering in particular, because it takes a certain amount of focus, strategy, and time, gives you a lot of time to think, but it also probably sets you up for a life as a trainer and someone who can be a mentor to leaders, isn't it?
Well, the lucky thing about my background is that I was actually a school teacher for a long time. So I've worked with youth, and that was a natural next step for the NGO work that I did, in communities with women and young people. And the lucky thing that I have is that I've got the background in teaching and training, and I've got the background in climbing. And a lot of the personal things you experience and encounter, things like having to overcome obstacles, fears, you have to be so resilient. And you're right in saying that it takes long hours of focus to stick to a goal when things get so difficult you just want to give up. So I fortunately have managed to find a way to bring my personal experience into the teaching and training part of my life. It's very exciting.
And the idea of, I think about a mountain, I think about the philosophical mountain, for example. You stick to the goal, absolutely, but it seems as though every step toward the goal is a step up the mountain, which means it's taking energy, it's taking so much out of you. And yet you're going to work toward the goal because the goal is to get to the top.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about climbing a physical mountain is you can see where you're going, and there's a tangible end result. And you kind of can see, well, I'm now 1,000 steps closer to where I want to go. But with the mountains of life, it's very tough because it's all mental and you have to envision all the time. And it's in the envisioning that we often get it wrong because doubts get into our way and people start talking about whether something is possible or not. And so the exciting part of my role as a coach, a mentor, a trainer, is to help people get practical tools to do the mental part of their mountaineering, their mental mountaineering. Because that's not easy, you know. Sometimes life just throws hard stuff at you and you want to give up, and things get so difficult that you can't think of a way to get back up again. Now, I've had that in life, but I've also had it on the mountain, so I know how to bring the two experiences together for people.
Isn't that a place at which it becomes very important that positive affirmation and meditation begins to play a role? Because
Absolutely.
even if it's on a mountain, you know, when you need to talk yourself up there physically, but you also need to talk yourself up there psychologically and emotionally in your life.
Absolutely. Climbing is an incredible thing. It really tests you on all those levels, and it tests you as a human being. You really discover your nastiest bits while climbing, and you also discover your best bits. You don't really know how strong you are physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually until you've done that sort of thing. But amazingly, what people don't realize is you don't need a motivational speaker. We all have the capacity to motivate ourselves from inside. We just don't have the tools to do it. And, you know, it's amazing how we don't get taught the tools to build resilience, to understand how perseverance really works and what you can do for yourself through your self-talk, through doing affirmations and through envisioning positively. Even though things might now look like it's falling apart, if you can hold on to the vision in a positive way, then, you know, you're pulling yourself towards that in a psychological way. And that's the exciting part of my work, is that I really love to help people discover that, you know, that things don't really fall apart until we tell ourselves this is the end.
And of course, one of the most important things, I'm just using, I love the mountain analogy that you've brought into the studio with you, because I can just go anywhere with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact is that before you mount, there needs to be a plan. I mean,
Absolutely.
You don't just walk up a mountain.
No, you don't decide on a Sunday morning, I'm going to climb Everest next Sunday, and then you just go. No, there's a lot of preparation involved. For instance, people often ask me, how do you prepare for an Everest expedition? Well, the second time I went back to Everest in 2003, I had 18 months of preparation. That's how long it takes to prepare your body, your mind, everything for the climb. And you literally have to be physically fit to the same level as an Olympic athlete.
Wow.
And have the same mental fitness as well. But you spend 3 months climbing, or you spend 3 months on expedition when you're climbing Everest. And just the absence of electricity, of running tap water, being in sub-zero temperatures, minus 45 degrees Celsius, weather coming in at 120 knots an hour.
Lots of dangers,
sort of, you know, there are lots and lots of, every single day there's an opportunity to give up. And so even though that's so arduous and it's such a concentrated time or such difficulty, you can overcome it. And if you're successful, you can get to the top and, you know, have your moment there. What people don't realize is life is the same.
Yes.
I mean, we're just dealing with a big recession now, and there are lots of people who've been hit very, very hard by that. And I call that the weather of life. You know, on a mountain you actually see the blizzard coming and you can feel it tangibly. But in life, that's the blizzard of life. You know, you lose your job, your children might be, you know, difficult to deal with. There are all sorts of things in life that we have to cope with on a daily basis, and to have the practical tools to do that is very, very important.
But how, when you're on a mountain, this is a physical mountain, or you're planning to go upward, there's a checklist. There's a checklist. You know, I mean, you can't prepare for every circumstance, but you certainly know that there are things that you can put in your toolkit. And know that. How do you know what to put in your toolkit when you set yourself a goal, though?
I would say in physical mountain climbing, there's obviously a bit of experience that's necessary. So you would know, if I'm climbing an icy mountain, I need this, that, and that kind of equipment. And the list of stuff that you need is just endless. I mean, if you talk about equipment, it's different types of rope, it's different tents, it's different types of sleeping bags, because it's warmer in base camp than it is, say, at Camp 4 at 8,000 meters above sea level. So in base camp you can have a minus 25 degrees Celsius sleeping bag, but it won't work for you at 8,000 meters. So it's all of those little things, and if you have the experience, it will help you do the checklist. But it obviously helps to have experts around you, to have people who've been there, to have mentors and coaches and people who know what it's like to overcome certain scenarios, and to have cheerleaders. You know, when you're climbing Everest, there isn't. I always call rugby an easy sport because they are cheerleaders. You know, you get these people that go da da da, and the audience is there, the crowds are there,
screaming and yelling.
So that really sort of edges you on. But on a mountain, there's so many hours of solitude that a lot of it has to come from inside. And so just to be able to do that and overcome the stuff that happens in your mind, because our mind is very powerful.
Oh, I'm telling you.
It's the first place where giving up happens before your body follows. And so too often we do that. We allow our mind to tell us that something is impossible. And then, of course, it becomes impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is my toolkit for the emotional journey that I might be taking myself on, or the leadership journey?
Yeah.
As I begin to work toward a business goal?
First and foremost, it is vitally important to have a very strong vision. It mustn't be something someone gave to you. It must be something that you, out of your own personal conviction, found for yourself. And there must be a very, very good reason why you want to do that thing. Whenever I speak to groups of entrepreneurs, for instance, I do a lot of work with young entrepreneurs, and you know, they get into business to make money. I often wonder if that's if that's worthy enough, because what if you don't make the money? Will you still be in the business? And what is the purpose of that? So the idea is have a strong vision and have a good reason, a purpose for why you want that vision. Whether it's starting a business, starting a family, going on to a mountain, whatever it is. It's the vitality of the vision that will pull you through, but the purpose of it, the meaning behind why you want that thing, that will make you sustain through difficult times, because it's easy to give up. You know, if you don't buy into something strongly enough, you'll give up. It's that simple. So that's the first part of my toolkit, is the vision and the purpose part. But then the second part of the toolkit is also understanding your inner workings as a human being, where your fault lines are, and how to bolster those, how to equip yourself in those areas so that when the going gets tough, you can get going.
Right.
Things like resilience, how to build resilience within yourself, perseverance, how to have that internal motivational mechanism for yourself. It's not easy.
No.
But it can be done.
Yes.
And then I would say a third thing about the toolkit is to really have some competence. You can't just show up and do.
No.
You have to learn a skill set that will allow you to do the thing that you're setting yourself up for. And then, of course, it flows, you know, where you get into the environment and you have to exhibit all these things. And opportunity is a natural outflow of that.
Yeah.
So to me, those 5 areas, first the sort of the aspirational, the visional stuff, the self-mastery stuff, the competence stuff,
yes,
the environment and opportunity. For me, those 5 areas are really the 5 toolkit bits that you really need to set yourself up to follow any goal really in life.
Are we born with an ability to inspire ourselves, do you think?
I think we are. I really do. I think we are. I think a lot of us lose it along the way. We have teachers that tell us how we're ill-equipped to deal with things. We have parents and teachers and, you know, people in our community who set us up to believe that we can't, and so we become uninspiring to ourselves, and we start to look at the faults in our system and in our capacity rather than the things that we're very good at, and that is a very bad place to start. You know, you don't look up at a mountain and say, oh geez, I'm never going to climb this thing. You can't. You've got to look at the mountain and make it possible in your mind that it is conquerable, and then you've got to overcome all the stuff that goes with climbing that mountain. We all have the capacity to inspire ourselves.
Deshun, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. What an inspirational story this was, from a woman who was one of a team to plant the first South African flag, the new South African flag, on Mount Everest. What an amazing experience that might have been. But now, this is not a conversation about who can climb the highest physical mountain, nor what it takes to have the physique or the mentality to climb that mountain. We know it's tough. However, the real conversation here is about finding the power within for you to be able to face the challenges in your life every day. We live in a country that brings with itself just some really exciting things to experience, and then some really daunting tasks every single day. How are you facing the mountains in your life? There is some truly inspirational story in a brand new book called The Power Within.